Jonathan Majors is headed to trial on November 29th. There's still no judge listed, but we have the trial date on the court website for, again, November 29th, slated for 9 a.m., and it's going to be a jury trial. Make sure, you should really give Elizabeth Rausner a follow on Twitter. She's covering and giving updates on this case in a really timely manner. You can also follow me. I'm covering details as they emerge. And then, with that being said, let's look at the details. This is from the Daily Beast with reporter Pilar Melendez. So, a New York City judge on Wednesday declined to dismiss all charges against actor Jonathan Majors in connection with the March domestic disputes that briefly sent his career into freefall. The defense has argued that prosecutors lack evidence to support the misdemeanor assault and harassment charges against Majors and had violated the Speedy Trial Act. If you watch my video on the motion to dismiss, that was all the references to New York State Criminal Procedure Law Rule 3030. Priya Chaudhry had done the math and determined it was past the amount of time that would be allocated to any defendant accused of the misdemeanor charges levied against Jonathan Majors, and said that the prosecution had exceeded their time. However, we see here that Judge Michael Gaffey denying the defense's motion to dismiss and noted that the prosecution has only been going on for 71 days. Majors appeared through remote link and did not speak during the 10-minute hearing in Manhattan Criminal Court. So, 10-minute hearing, that means they really didn't have oral arguments going on in the courtroom. The motion to dismiss was originally filed back in September. The prosecution had an October 6th deadline to respond, and then the defense had a deadline of October 13th to respond to the prosecution's response. Curiously, though, this opposition response was cited in a lot of the articles published by the Rolling Stone and Variety yesterday that were saying the DA had no intent to issue a desk appearance ticket for Grace Jabarri, despite the October 23rd and October 24th news from The Messenger and then corroborated by NBC that says there was, in fact, as they confirmed with a law enforcement official that was briefed on the matter, that there was, in fact, a desk appearance ticket being issued and that Grace Jabarri was supposed to voluntarily appear to answer for charges. And I've got to point out that The Messenger has reiterated their exclusive reporting from the 23rd. This is now 10:25 at 11:31 a.m. Eastern. They say Grace Jabarri is expected to be charged with assault 7 months after the actor's March arrest, according to the Office of the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information for the NYPD, who exclusively confirmed the news to The Messenger on Monday. The DCPI previously told The Messenger that Jabarri is expected to voluntarily report to the NYPD's 10 precinct in the near future after the actor filed a countercomplaint against her in June. So, this is the war of the media reporting, right? That's why I'm saying it's so important that the Rolling Stone and Variety and those articles, everything that was syndicated from them, are relying on a report from October 6th, maybe it was October 13th, but it was a filing that had a deadline earlier this month. They're relying on the wording in that response filing. And The Messenger saying, hey, this is what we learned through someone briefed on the matter on the 23rd, and we're saying it again on the 25th. So the ruling paves the way for Majors to stand trial on November 29th and grants a new protection order for his alleged victim and ex-girlfriend Grace Jabarri in connection with the March 25th dispute. Prosecutors say that during the car ride, Jabarri tried to grab Majors' phone after she saw a message that read, quote, "Wish I was kissing you right now," end quote. In response, Majors grabbed her arm, placed it behind her body, and used his right hand to twist her right arm and finger during the altercation, a criminal complaint states. Majors also allegedly hit Jabarri across her right arm and caused a laceration before he pushed her into a car with both hands. Now, just for context, this incident that's being described here involves the amended complaint language. After the strangulation charge was dropped, the court reporter around that time of the hearing noted that new language in the complaint alleged a bruise to Jabarri's right arm that was incurred from being pushed into a vehicle. And all of these incidents that involve spilling in and out of a vehicle at any point all occurred before that surveillance footage we have of Grace Jabarri on the sidewalk where it's zoomed in and there's no apparent laceration, and she's continuing to use her finger. And then they discuss some of the other background, like the Rolling Stones article, how Majors has been dropped by his PR firm, how the defense team has released the surveillance video that we've seen if you've watched my previous videos on this case, and recounting some prior statements that the defense has made to the Daily Beast and others in defense of their client. But this is really where we're kind of starting to see this confusion unravel. So there's been a lot of confusion over why some outlets are saying that Grace Jabarri might answer for charges, and others saying, oh no, the prosecution says they're not going to press charges, they're not going to do this, even if they find probable cause. A lot of this issue is because some media outlets are relying on the opposition filing to the motion to dismiss that was filed prior to this October 23rd and October 24th news about the desk appearance ticket coming from the Messenger and NBC. But here for the first time, we have the Daily Beast giving some type of date to finally describe where they're getting this idea from that the prosecution is saying they're not going to press charges. So let's read how they word this. Prior to Wednesday's hearing, news reports surfaced that Jabarri may face charges in connection with the domestic dispute and is expected to voluntarily report to the New York City Police Department to receive a desk appearance ticket. They add that in June, the New York Times and Insider also reported that police had evidence that suggested Jabarri was the one who attacked Majors. And in the motion to dismiss, Priya Chaudhry actually cited both of those articles because it should be the prosecution that was producing that information through discovery to the defense under their statutory obligations under federal Brady-Giglio law and New York Criminal Procedure Law 245-20. And they failed to turn that information over, so they had to rely on the reporting of the New York Times and Insider. And if you want, you can go back to my first video on Jonathan Majors, and it goes through not just the motion where they allege it, but it does show the full video and some of this other evidence. But here's where we get the date mentioned finally. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office previously said in an October 13th motion that if police did decide to charge Jabarri, it would decline to prosecute the charges. The motion also revealed prosecutors have obtained a London Metropolitan Police report about a September 2022 incident they say is relevant to their case. Details of the incident are not immediately clear, although it seemed, and I think it was the Rolling Stone, that the Metropolitan said that they're not going to discuss details on the matter because no arrest was made. And it also appeared unclear if it involved Grace Jabarri or not, who, remember, she's from the UK and Jonathan Majors has filmed in the UK. And I think, sometimes people would assume that there was another incident. They've been dating for a couple years. I don't think that we can conclude that the hospitalization report is her. But it's interesting that the outlets don't know for sure if it's about her or not. So they're quoting the motion. So a thorough investigation was conducted into the facts of this case, and in doing so, the people have chosen to prosecute Jonathan Majors, prosecutors said in a motion. It does not follow that an investigation was not conducted. If you go back and read the motion to dismiss, Priya Chaudhry lays out her arguments for why she thinks the prosecution failed to do a thorough investigation. So if you're interested in that, go listen to that reading. It's pretty informative. But in general, we're moving forward. We're going to have a trial. That's not unexpected. I mean, you saw above that the motion hearing took 10 minutes. So it wasn't even like they heard oral arguments. The judge got these filings. The filings have mostly been used for the media and court of public opinion, right? I think we've seen more than was heard in that 10 minutes. But Jonathan Majors has requested previously that he wanted a jury trial, so that's no surprise. But what is really interesting is, we have these October 23rd and 24th reports of Grace Jabarri is supposed to appear voluntarily to answer to a desk appearance ticket. Where did this rumor come from? Where did this noise come from that she's supposed to appear voluntarily? It's my inclination to believe that she is going to be in the country and that she will appear as a witness in this trial, where I would imagine she would have to testify under oath. But I do think she was out of the country. She's either already back in or coming back in. She might not be here if the trial's not going to be until November. But I do really think that if she wasn't going to appear, the prosecution might have had questions about moving forward with the trial, as their key witness would not have been here. But what do you think? What do you think about all this news? Are you shocked that it's going to trial? Do you think it's just ordinary course of business? Or, of course, it's going to go to trial. What do you think of the defense's argument that the prosecution has been, failing to meet their statutory obligations to produce evidence and conduct an investigation into what they're responsible to investigate? But we had the DA fire back and saying, well, the defense is engaging in problematic conduct regarding evidence, including things like wanting Grace Jabarri's photo to be in a wanted poster, claiming existence of videos that don't exist, distorting witness statements, sharing evidence with the media. And this one's actually, I thought it was very interesting because in one of the Insider articles, they specifically name the law firm that procured the surveillance video of Grace Jabarri speaking with the three strangers on the sidewalk. And then the defense, in their motion to dismiss, had to rely on the New York Times and Insider to say, hey, they're finding this information. Why haven't you produced it for us? So to me, it seems like a lot of slinging. Like we're going to make vague accusations, and maybe there's a gray area where it's true on both sides. But, the language, depending on where you're positioned, if you already agree with the prosecution or if you already agree with the defense, some of the things that they're lodging against each other, you can just easily insert yourself to believe. And then lastly, what do you think in all considerations of justice and in a criminal proceeding, the state, the people, the prosecution bear the burden of proof? There's beyond a reasonable doubt to prove their case, to prove what they're alleging against the accused. How do you feel about something like this, where the Manhattan District's Attorney's Office previously said that if police did decide to charge Jabari, it would decline to prosecute those charges? I mean, I think that's really powerful. I think that's telling. And I don't think that that was a great thing for the district attorney to say in a motion. I'm pretty sure they've echoed the same sentiment in a public statement a few months ago in June or July. To me, I think it's just my perspective, but I think that's a questionable thing for the prosecution, which bears the statutory obligations to pursue the truth, to pursue justice. I don't think that's a great thing to say that, if they were to arrest, and with an arrest comes questioning, which in theory comes with new information or a chance to reveal inconsistencies, it would still decline to prosecute those charges. I just think that's a strange thing to say. I think that's personally, my brain keeps fixating on that. But what do you think about any and all of this? Leave your thoughts in the comments, leave your questions in the comments. And until we come back with an update, take care.